Let's talk about prison weddings. We're going to learn about the long process, the ceremony, the pros and cons, and even how to meet an inmate from the outside. We'll discuss what happens after they're released and hear about a couple that's pulling it off. To have a prison wedding, you and the inmate first have to fill out a formal request to get married with the prison. The person on the outside is responsible for paying the $150 to $200 fee that comes with it, and you have to produce documentation for both you and your partner to prove that you can get married. After everything has been submitted, you have to wait for approval. If you're approved, you meet with the family visiting coordinator at the prison to work out the details. Once you find an officiant, you can select the date and write the ceremony. Most people have to hire a professional officiant, as many religious ones object to marriages while the partner is incarcerated. The day of the wedding ceremony is extremely basic, with no visitors allowed besides the officiant and the person getting married. The witness is often another inmate who is working nearby. You can't bring in someone special to you, like a bridesmaid, like our normal wedding. The ceremony comes pre-scripted by the hired officiant, and most charged if you'd like it personalized. The wedding takes place in the visitation room along with everyone else. You are not allowed to be alone for the ceremony. Rings aren't allowed to be exchanged in Texas, although some states allow rings as long as they are under a certain price. After the ceremony, you can exchange a brief kiss, but you aren't allowed to leave the visitation room. Since conjugal visits aren't allowed in Texas, this means that the marriage isn't consummated until the inmate is released. You can often pay for a few pictures to be taken by the prison as a way to remember it, and some officiants take professional photos of the bride beforehand. Shortly after the ceremony, the officiant and outsider have to leave the prison, leaving the new husband or wife behind. Why would someone ever marry an inmate? Besides love, there are plenty of legal reasons to get married to someone in jail. It can make the adoption process easier, and some may do it in order to immigrate to the U.S., because you can get a green card even if your spouse is in prison. Financial reasons, such as tax breaks, Social Security income, and insurance can also play a role. After getting married to an inmate, you have no special privileges when it comes to visitation. You are still not allowed conjugal visits and can't get any extra time. Spouses of inmates often report losing a lot of money, because every week they reload their loved one's commissary. In return, they can get daily phone calls and visit them every once in a while. While a large number of people knew their inmate spouse before prison, some people meet their future spouse on a website. Sites like Prison Inmates Online and Pentagon.com allow people from the outside to choose an inmate and become pen pals with them. From there, people can find themselves falling in love with an inmate. Once the inmate is released, the relationship can go one of two ways. You live happily ever after, or you get divorced. On one hand, they can completely turn their life around once they get out, and they were honest with you about loving you the whole time. This is more common if you knew the inmate before they went to jail. On the other hand, a lot of prison marriages fall apart. Some inmates marry outsiders so that they can receive commissary money. They might not have ever had feelings for the person. The inmate could also go back to prison again, leaving the partner alone. Some people may marry an inmate who has a lifelong sentence and they're never released. Some people may just realize they're not right. Since same-sex marriage is legalized, that means couples can get married if they're both in prison, right? Unfortunately, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice still bans marriages between prisoners. While it is allowed in other states, Texas prisoners just have to make do with a ceremony for show, without any legal standing once they leave. In 2010, Tracy went on the Oprah show to talk about her experience marrying an inmate. She met Joseph in his maximum security prison when her dance troupe was performing for his men's group. Joseph was going to be in prison for the rest of his life with no opportunity for parole for a double homicide. Tracy and Joseph began writing letters to each other, and they quickly felt a connection. They were married in November of 2010 in a short ceremony inside the prison. They were reported as still happily married in 2016, and Tracy is confident she made the right decision, even though she will never actually be able to spend time with him outside of prison. Many people object to their loved ones getting married to an inmate. In Tracy's case, her family is still very critical of her decision to marry Joseph. People often say that when someone marries an inmate, they're throwing their life away due to the lack of constant physical contact, but love can often make a person blind to these negatives. So that's prison weddings. For some, it may be the happiest moment of their lives, but others may regret spending the time, money, and effort that they require. Prison, or the release from prison in some cases, may be the ultimate test of a marriage and love.